So what we said in the morning is that we're entering a defining moment. We can't really not have our customers' equipment break down, so we still have to deal with the reality of that. That is a fact. But we also, as we've seen, many of the presentations are moving the needle on how we treat services. And we are actually looking at the transformational stage that is enabled by technology by all means, but it's first and foremost adopted by humans. And that's where the big change is happening. So we need to rethink how people, processes, and data work together across the service lifecycle. I think that's been pretty clear, both in your discussions today, the ones I've overheard, but as well on the main stage. And that's why I've called upon you, I've summoned the wise on this stage to help me digest on how we actually build a future-ready service organization, one that is capable of balancing operational resilience, customer experience, and sustainable growth. How about that? You ready for this? Yeah. Okay, good. So maybe just, I don't think we have to deep dive into introductions, but maybe just in a one-liner, name, I've already said that, but what does Zipwater do?
So Zipwater is a manufacturer and service provider of hot water drinking solutions. So whether that be instantaneous, stored hot water, point of use, sparkling, chilled, boiling, there's a range of products that we manufacture for the market and then obviously follow up with a full aftermarket life cycle journey.
Okay. And Bright Star Lottery?
We provide lottery technology globally to around 28 customers. We've got about 500,000 points of sale out, and we provide all solutions in the lottery market from instant tickets to our digital offering as well. So we make millionaires.
Yes. That is a great aspect of it. Of course, I also know, because I just interviewed Matt the other day, you have a fairly large installed base in terms of unit and number of equipment, right? So it's really, and it's all connected, which is, of course, a luxury, sometimes maybe a curse, depending on how your data strategy is. Jason?
Hi, so I work for 3D Systems. It's an American company, a manufacturer of industrial 3D printing machines and materials and software. Our customer base is pretty varied. It ranges from things like Formula One teams, military, healthcare, dentists, you name it. If you can imagine it, you can print it.
Thank you. And let's get straight to it, because what we've discussed today is downtime costs to uptime value. But uptime value is also a bit of a buzzword, to be honest. It's something that is, I mean, we've heard it so many times today. But it is a transitional period, as I said, where we're moving from fixing failures and maybe firefighting to try to prevent them to the best of our ability, at least. So if I'm going to ask you individually, what does the uptime value mean for your organization today in practice, in your daily operation? What does it mean for you, Dan?
I think the uptime value is potentially sometimes a buzzword, but ultimately, as part of that customer journey, I think it breeds into the loyalty. It breeds into the volume of churn that you'll see through customers. Now, depending on the sector that you're working in, whether that be residential via an FM company, whether it's direct to consumer, it all has a different value to them. Some of them want less noise around it. Some of them want it for performance measurements as part of the contract they're delivering to an end client. And to the talking point we had earlier of consuming risk, I think the uptime is the kind of the opposite of the noise they receive. And there's a lot of customers that are willing to not have that time to have to commit, whether it be via contacting you, whether it be via hosting engineers on site, completing permits, whatever that may be. So I think it's a loaded question in itself for what is the uptime. The uptime is the satisfaction from the customer using your product at the end of the day, I think.
Great definition. You're nodding, Samantha.
Yeah,
what's your thought?
Agree.
And what is uptime value to Bright Star Lottery?
Yeah, we've had a lot of thought around this, probably for the last coming up for 10 years. So we've really been trying to think about equipment is going to fail generally. So how do we intervene? How do we make that as seamless as possible for our end user? And we've gone on a journey towards our uptime value, be it understanding our total cost of ownership, bringing in predictive elements, proactive elements. So it really has evolved. But for us, a lot of our contracts are on revenue share. So if the equipment is down, then there's a direct impact to us as well as to our customers. So that really is the uptime value for us in terms of our contract.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a revenue share model. And Jason?
I think I'd probably replace uptime with output.
Yeah.
For us, customers really want the output, what the machine is going to produce, not necessarily that it's available to do that. That kind of changes the conversation that we're having with it and the way that we need to understand it as a business. Service then becomes, we are trying to protect the customer productivity, the economics around that. We're shifting our mindset from fixing faults to, to protecting production. And it's a bit of a transition to get to that for the traditional field service mindset that we've had to try and encourage that move and that shift. That if a machine fails and it's 8 days into a 9-day build, we can't regain that. Even with a production guarantee or a bonus, that's just lost time that can't be replaced. So it's really kind of important.
I like that, the output idea, because that also actually indicates that the customer sometimes is more interested in how many units, of course, they can operate the equipment in maybe not the best way to get to their goals, right? Even though the uptime might be there, but there's a human factor that they try to squeeze as much as possible for certain production goals or quotas that they have to do. And that could be, a wear and tear that might be hard to predict maybe on certain equipment. Is that something you're facing? That's like, okay, we're pushing because we need a certain output?
There's another dimension that we have to it. Yeah, of course, that's an aspect. But quality, when it comes to something that somebody else is creating and is maybe responsible for setting up that production, quality becomes subjective. It's their opinion, whether that's, the build may have finished, for example, the part may be complete. But if the service quality is not what they're expecting, or it's got porosity, or there's cracks or defects in it internally, then it's a fail. Now that can be objective in the case of non-destructive testing, but sometimes it is subjective, like a jewelry manufacturer. They're making a wax cast for a ring, and that comes out, if it's not good for the eye, it fails.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of factors that are not machine responsible. They're outside that do come into play. So it's drawing that line between what can the machine do and what does the customer expect it to do, and where does that line sit?
And we speak about predictive capability, and it's in this room, it's been positioned as the future, of course, in many aspects, but not every installed base is connected, and which is obviously one of the criteria normally to move into predictive. And not every customer demands a predictive maintenance scheme at all, or willing to pay for it even, right? So what is your take on how service organizations should think about progressing towards predictive maturity without leaving customers and even your own operations behind in this? Your thoughts on this, Dan?
I'd say ZIP Water's been heavily geared towards predictive maintenance for a fair few years now. Now we've seen the benefits change quite considerably from a demographics point of view around the volume of work orders we're attending for reactive versus preventative maintenance. And it's not just the uptime that you bring with a product or the reduced volume of reactive visits. It's that kind of customer journey, product experience, service experience. You're selling something more than somebody just turning up when something's broken. And the kind of strands that come off that in terms of being able to maintain a product life cycle, represent your brand, understand the individual customer needs. It's very beneficial. I've always said that, not that it's necessarily the right place to be there, but an engineer will always upsell a product or a service better than what a salesman will, because they're more empathetic, they have the needs, and they're talking to the points of the product. So we've essentially seen kind of a 30-70 reversal to 70-30 in terms of the volume of our work orders that we do. And we're very not fortunate, but in the industry we're in when it comes to drinking water, legislation is increasing around water testing, Legionnaires, Pseudomonas, biofilm, all the other bits that go with it. So it's a self-generating requirement for preventative maintenance, if that makes sense. And we've managed to use that as a launch pad to look at what component failures are we seeing? How are we capturing the data around how the customer is using the product? Do they have any change in needs that we can then have that customer education and transparency with them? So for us, it's definitely a key part to delivering a quality service for the customer.
And Sam, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, we have the exact scenario that you've outlined. So we have some very long-term contracts, which is a blessing, of course, 10+ year contracts, but that also means that it takes a long time to refresh equipment and to bring them onto the next generation equipment that has the sensors built in. So what we've been really trying to do is go on a journey with our customer, help to educate them around what service innovation is looking like for the future, so that when their tenders do come out, that's already built in and we're able to provide that service to them. But we're very much in that space now where we've still got a heavy reactive service just because it's what the customer wants and what the RFP dictates. And we're now trying to migrate our customer base into that more proactive approach to service.
And that educational part, does that sit with the field service team, or is that more central?
It actually has. I mean, we've really tried to work together as an organization, but Matt's been phenomenal at this, being out at trade shows, on customer road shows, talking to them and telling them what the future of service can look like. And because it's a silo, they're very used to these reactive 1-2 hour SLAs. So to switch that mindset and say, actually, we can fix it before it even breaks as a concept is quite hard to explain. So we are getting there, and we're bringing more and more customers on board on the journey with us now.
And Jason, your thoughts on this?
I think for a lot of customers, or for a lot of to us practitioners, predictive means connected. I guess the reality, again, is somewhat different. A lot of customers, particularly the IT departments, are quite hostile to other people being connected to their networks, and it's been quite a barrier. So therefore, I think most fleets are now hybrid. So this, I guess where we're going with predictive is kind of still a journey, but a journey that relies on good quality data in the first place. So I don't think that's replacing engineer insight or, structured reporting. No. That's still got a place to play.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, in the hybrid environment, how do you balance that then? Because you have connected and, non-connected install base probably, or do you only have connected install base?
No, so we have both.
You have both,
we have both, and I resonate with the challenge of we could move a lot quicker with a connected front. If we didn't face the challenges, particularly around the financial sector, MOD, places like that, where you have a challenge to get that connected data out to yourselves. Now, we do a variant of it. We provide connectivity in-site, so they, on-site facilities team, we can share that knowledge and give them the ability to understand the performance of the product and any potential faults that may come, etc. So we've had to kind of ensure that we deliver the connective piece, but with the customer in mind as well as our ability to do it. Now, we saw a big uptake with the connected sites that we have. We're able to deliver quicker response times because it's quite a nice experience to deliver that you're explaining to a customer that you're attending because they've got a fault before they know they've got a fault. And I think that goes a long way in terms of building trust and loyalty with the customers. However, on the other hand, where you're not able to deliver that connectivity, to be able to give that to them and speed up, particularly if they have an end client on site, to give them that functionality is definitely something that's considered as part of a tendering process, or if they have contractual obligations, etc.
And do you sense, and maybe that's for the panel as such, but I think Burak was touching upon it, things just happen automatically. Sometimes it's hard to showcase to the customer what you're actually doing or preventing. And I mean, what like you were touching upon now, like, okay, we have to also, we can say, hey, we can fix that in advance, but are they going to trust your, because there's a premium charge maybe, or maybe it's not, but they're like, but what are we paying for? We hear this quite a lot in the service community, that they have a hard time onboarding customers because the customers don't see, they see an intervention when something's broken, that they see, they realize that, right? Yes. But then, when you say, yeah, but we've done multiple things, remotely or preventative or whatever, they are like, did you really now? And it's a report back loop that has to function for you to be able to showcase value. Any thoughts on that in terms of this hybrid environment? Maybe Jason?
I think if you can just give the customer, or make them feel that they have some value with the product that you're doing, you stand a better chance of having it connected. It might be, if your argument is along the basis of it's helping you deliver your contract, the customer tends to be, well, what's the benefit in it for me?
Yeah.
If you can add something, for example, real-time monitoring for the customer, they can monitor their own production, they can see a build from home, or they can start a build on Saturday morning without going in. That has a benefit, a tangible benefit for them. Or they can have some qualitative data that comes off it. Then that's a way forward. But I think your processes still need to be robust enough that you can deploy the traditional methods of field service engineering, the engineer opinions, the FMEA
Yes.
analysis alongside that.
Yeah.
And then maybe build a more compelling picture.
And yeah, let's be clear about that. There's nothing wrong with the old way. There's nothing wrong with it. It's like sometimes it seems like we're just looking at what's going to be the future. But I mean, field service organization has saved the day for many over a multitude of decades. But there is a transition ongoing that I think we also have to sort of tap into, because it aligns with customer expectations and the sort of 24/7 availability of the equipment or the service organization. And I mean, Sam, I'm thinking you have shop owners or whatever that has your equipment installed. So how do you sort of get them to get the willingness to invest in the predictive part?
It's very difficult. So we've got a bit of a strange dynamic where we contract with a national lottery, and then they hold the retailer contract. So really we have to build it in at that
level. Yeah.
level. We've been working to target a couple of use cases that we can then really explain to our customer base, rather than trying to run before we can walk. We've taken a couple of use cases, simplified them, they're our most common faults, and gone to our customers and showed metrics around the difference and the benefit that it can have if we take a predictive approach. But to your point, the retailers are very used to their 1 or 2 technicians that they see all the time. They try and contact them directly. They want that relationship.
Ooh, naughty.
It's all there. Yes, very naughty. So it is a complete change in behavior, and it's only through showcasing it via the metrics and showing the benefit to the customer that really will eventually get everyone on board.
Do you see that a lot, that you sort of have an established contract with customers and then they call back to the guy that they've known forever? Raise your hands. Oh, this is very disruptive when you try to roll out a new method, right? But if we look then at connected data, because that's one of the things we've looked at, we've spoken about the barriers, and maybe that's also a question to the audience. How many are experienced that the sort of IT departments on customer sides are not willing to share data? Oh, yeah, we have a lot of inhibitors here to move forward. And maybe we should do an IT event for field service only to see if there is some way we can get this group to share the data. But I mean, if we work with the assumption that the data give us knowledge and we can perform better, what are your takes on this learning curve when you start to collect data from your connected installed base, on what are the insights and the data that you actually, let's say, thrive with today, that maybe you even didn't expect would be one of the biggest takeaways? But how do you make the most out of the data you're collecting? Do you want to share any insights?
Yeah, we're currently moving through this for the connectivity piece to expand it in the different sectors. So aspects such as, from a residential purpose, a lot of home appliances have an app now, and people like to see that. So that's kind of one instance, and that allows us to understand the performance of the machine, etc. But for a drinking water point of view, there's a very driven culture now around well-being and well-being in the workplace and at home, and people have that desirability of how they want to lead their lifestyle, and being hydrated is one of them. So that allows us to leverage the understanding of providing information to people around their hydration levels, around their concentration levels, and all the other aspects that come off the back of it. So it's kind of a multifaceted purpose for us. It's not just from a field for service aspect of understanding parts durability or preempting failure. It's actually allowing us to market what the product does, to make it more relevant to the user, if that makes sense. So there are a number of arms that come off the connected piece for ourselves.
And that's really interesting. I see more and more OEMs are also establishing a service marketing team. Do you have one in your organizations? A dedicated team for service marketing, which I think is quite interesting as well when it comes to the performance of the equipment. And Sam, your insights that you pulled from the data, have you learned anything from all this massive data pools?
Firstly, it's huge. The volume of data that comes back can feel quite overwhelming. So we've really taken those few use cases to try and dig into and understand those first and foremost. But what we are taking from it and what we're trying to educate our wider business on is how the product is actually used and building back into the product more reliability. And actually that data is proving super valuable when you sit at the table with product and with architecture to say, this is how it's performing today, this is what it's costing us, and this is what we need in terms of our TCO to make the product more reliable for these long contracts. So it's had a big benefit.
And Jason, any specific data insights that you sort of,
definitely. The best example I can give is that when something's gone wrong from a customer's perspective, it's the machine that always gets the blame.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
What the data has enabled us to be able to do is to show them where else in the workflow the problem has occurred. And it might be because for example, they've oriented the part and half a degree out and it's got some artifacts on it that they don't like. It's that quality issue that question that come back and again. Or it may be that they haven't been maintaining the material correctly.
Yeah.
So we define field service engineers as field service engineers. They're there to fix software or the hardware on the machine, the firmware, or mechanical, electrical issues. They're not experts in running the machine.
No.
They don't get the time out for a start. The customers are more expert at that than we are. But we have created an applications engineer role as a result of that. And we're starting to use more either to improve customer experience, to show them how to get the best out of the machine, how to avoid that problem in the future. If you do this, if you do that, if you're not nesting your parts so densely, then you won't get heat distortion and that sort of thing. And that's made a big difference. That separation between the machine always being the issue and showing customers how to get the best out of it adds a value to the service that you're giving, which you may or may not decide to charge for. Yeah. But that's certainly something that you can put into the equation. It's a USP that your competitors may not have.
Yeah, and I guess that becomes an educational piece as well, to prevent future failures, because you're training your customers, then please don't do this, because,
And if they use the machines more and they're more successful, they use more material, which is what we want them to do. So it's, a self-fulfilling prophecy if you help them achieve.
Fantastic.
Can I just come back to the point you made before or I think you made it about the engineers calling up that. Customers calling the engineer directly. Yeah. Again, that's just such a good USP as a service provider. Yeah. That you've got that engineer, that customer contact that your competitors don't have. He's got that relationship. They've got that relationship with that customer. That's such an important thing. It's such a valuable thing to have. Yeah. And your engineers now are your best asset. They spend more time in front of customers than anyone else in the organization. Yeah. And I think that's such a powerful thing.
You're actually pointing to something really interesting about the workforce, right? This is probably a very rewarding part for the technicians or the engineer to get that feedback from the customers and that they are important, right? And then also we're talking about actually that we shouldn't do that because it's disrupting the central kind of service agreements or whatever it might be. But it brings me to the workforce and on the theme of what Paul sort of presented today, which was quite scary with all those numbers. It was a little bit of a doomsday prophecy for the field service as we know it, right? There was hope there that we had to change to get a different outcome. But we've known this for years and still we don't really seem to have a clear solution on how we bring talent in, how we train, how we retain. And there's also, as you were touching upon, maybe different roles that will start evolving from the way we execute services. So with the growing skills gap across field service, what is your thoughts on how organizations should rethink technician enablement and workforce development? Because this must be the toughest part of your jobs right now, to see like, okay, we have this limited talent pool, we have all these aspects, and we still want to, become or maintain our position as an attractive employer. How do we do that? So how do you see the workforce development?
It's been one of the most prevalent topics that I think we've discussed today, and I took a lot of points away from it. But we've addressed it over the last 3 or 4 years. We've heavily invested in training,
Okay.
and looking at how we actually structure the requirements of the field service team. So as I kind of alluded to around the preventative maintenance, the approach has been very clearly that for an engineer to understand mechanically, electrically, how to diagnose a problem, they need to understand how it works, first of all. And that's where the benefit of preventative maintenance comes in. So the way we've structured it is we have an entry-level position of technicians. All of it is onboarded by the training team. We've extensively invested in training facilities, into software platforms to allow us to recognize it. We've done some great work with city and guilds, because one of the bits of feedback we had was it's not a qualification that I can take across to other businesses, etc. So we spent a lot of time looking to get
Interesting.
our training material accredited by them. And that's then added value for the younger generation coming in. I would like to say circa 75% of our engineers were originally technicians. So we very much do drive it's a career progression opportunity if you choose to do it. Now, some may say the investment in the training versus capturing that knowledge. We are doing both. But from a cultural point of view, if we can build the right culture with the right people that want to come in and learn, the rest of it we can teach. And the team that we have and the functionality also is something that customers like to see, whether it be from an accreditation point of view or when we're benchmarking ourselves in the market for talent. It's something that we're able to hang our hat on and demonstrate the journey of people that have come through the company. And I'm really proud to say that's not just men.
No.
We do have women in the field service team and in the management levels for the field service engineers. So it's something that we looked at a few years ago now, and took the hard decision that we were going to have to invest. Now, yes, we do lose some, and that's part and parcel of the journey we go on with them. But if we sustain 2 to 3 years of that knowledge growth, of that knowledge capture, of that customer excellence, it's paid dividends to us as a business. So it's a problem for us all to face, and we will address it on the separate fund of knowledge capture. But that's the kind of that's a hook we put our hat on for the moment to try and drive through that.
But it really feeds into a comment from the audience earlier. I don't remember if it was Eddie or it was, but the fact that we know that the younger generation also tend to move jobs, more frequently than maybe what we were used to back in the days. And if we can give this as a platform for them to build a career on, then you might have a different influx of actual applicants and become a more attractive, employer to just get them in. Then whether or not they stay, that's kind of where the hard work starts, right? But that you can do with other things in terms of career path and actually, trajectory and, moving up the scales, etc. if they're interested in that. But if we don't even get the applicants in because they can't carry that knowledge with them anywhere, then they might not be willing to invest that time in your company, right? So it's a very nice approach. Sam, your thoughts on the workforce issue?
I resonated so much with Paul's excellent presentation. And we at Bright Star Lottery, we've been trying to do something similar. And it touched on what Paul was saying. Under Matt's leadership, we now have what we call professional and technical competency modeling. So these are training programs for the field force globally, where we evaluate their technical competencies to be able to promote them, but also we did a study over 18 months to analyze behavior of what are our true field service rock stars doing that is different to a very technical, introverted field service representative. What are those behavioral traits, and how do we bring them out in other people so that they are able to fulfill this all round that we're now looking for, that's not just going on site and fixing. And that's actually worked really well. We've had lots of really positive feedback on that training program specifically. So that's one way we've tried to bridge it.
Interesting. And Jason, you already shared the applications aspect of it, which is obviously creating a different role that carries another responsibility. It's a prolongation or an addition or complement to the technician itself. Any
And
other?
potential career path.
Exactly. Yeah.
There were the three aspects, I guess, that we've explored. I mean, the first one is soft skills, as sort of Dan alluded to. There's some stuff you can teach, but and that's not really a problem. That's the technical side. The part that I suppose is, going back to that other point, is that it is really useful is that how you deal with a customer, how you de-escalate a hostile situation, how do you turn that into potentially an opportunity? How the engineer should look when they arrive on site to reassure the customer, how they leave the work area when they're finished. Those are the sort of things I think that had been maybe ignored, undervalued years ago, and are becoming more and more prevalent. We did a course maybe 2 years ago on that. We're now repeating that course. We've had some new, some attrition, some new team members start, so we're repeating that. Another aspect is, again, on that opportunity creation. Rather than send everybody to the US for training, or to France or whatever, we're starting to bring that out into the field and use subject matter experts, engineers that are senior or an expert in a technology, to deliver that training now as well, which again is a potential career progression. It's also something that they've found quite interesting to do, and it's more variety for their role. So again, that's been a positive spin-off with that. And again, you're giving them something else to look forward to or to consider, rather than the traditional approach of engineer, supervisor, tech support as a role. And if you've got that career progression that you can use in your recruitment process, and give examples, I think that may give a good signal to the sort of the next generation that there is, not just going to get pigeonholed.
And it's a great comment, and it also feeds back to what Paul said there from last year's comment when he was on stage, that like we're looking at if the soft skills are actually what we think is the USP of the talent that we should keep, then we might not need to tap in so much into their STEM qualities, for example. Maybe we should look, broaden our horizon on who we are picking. If we can train them on the technical abilities, or we believe so, but maybe it's harder to train the soft skills. Maybe we need to do a different kind of recruitment. I mean, this is a very philosophical question. Anyone agrees on that? Have tried different methods? Oh, Paul does. Yes, surprisingly. Yes, of course. But it is actually a quite interesting, question. Why do we go looking for talent in the same places?
I think there is one challenge to the growing, and it's definitely a pushback I've experienced. Is when we stand here and we question, do we buy talent or do we grow talent? You're trying to explain to a business that wants to scale that if you're going to train that talent yourselves, there is a time lag period versus growth of the business before you can deploy and absorb some of that demand of the business.
Of course, it's an investment,
so
yeah.
You're trying to run 6 to 9 months ahead in line with where you're projecting to be as a business. And for a field service team, I think sometimes that's a bit of a challenge of, we've delivered the sales, we're doing really, really well, growth is there, to react to it and to have the volume of headcount you need to deliver the demand. If you take that approach and kind of you shy away from buying the talent, it's sometimes you can get a little bit caught out with some of the service level deliveries.
Yeah, of course.
So there's some risk that you do inherit by taking that.
It's the short term versus the long term, of course. Yeah, and it's balanced somehow. And what do we think about the sort of career path for the Gen Zs? I mean, I don't really know what drives them, but remote work seems to be ticking the boxes. Work-life balance, as Paul was mentioning, is really high up there. They're also looking at things more idealistic, values, I would say, like sustainability, and these kind of things are important for them when they choose an employer. That's at least what the sort of global indexes are saying on this generation. And then we have the sort of introduction of the digital and AI supported workflows, which also makes me think that maybe there are different roles or components of the field service job that can be done by a different category of people, right? That doesn't necessarily, maybe it's more customer service centric, maybe it's more remote support. What are your thoughts on the sort of Gen Z boom that we're seeing? And we have to, because this is across all industries. This is not just the field service industry that's having this sort of, but it's just becoming so tangible for the field service industry because we need boots on the ground, right, that actually can do the work. So any thoughts here? Maybe Jason, you're laughing at me.
No, it's topical. We were just talking about that in the last breakout session.
The ones that doesn't know soap, right? That generation.
I'm not sure what generation I am. I don't think I'm a boomer, but I'm pretty close to that. I've been coming at it from maybe a different. I haven't got Gen Z or millennials figured out yet.
No.
That's maybe a problem I'm trying to push a couple of years down the line.
Yeah.
I have made a conscious effort to employ what I call grey hair, and that's what we were talking about before. Despite what the law might say, that ageism is alive and well, and it is in field service. And there's a lot of people still with 10, 15 years to go that are finding themselves in their 50s without a job. And that's the skill that I'm trying to hoover up. That sort of generation of field service engineer is used to working remotely, independently, making their own decisions, being innovative. They have the customer skills. And if you combine that with bringing somebody in with 20, 30 years of experience, they also become a role model for the younger teller you're trying to bring in and develop in-house. And, show and do. And even if they are the junior colleague while they're learning, the junior colleague who's maybe technically superior is still learning from them about how that way they behave and while they're shadowing and learning the job. So again, I guess the transferable skills are not gone and shouldn't be forgotten. And if I get another 7 years out of somebody or 5 years, then I think that's a good investment.
And they're probably loyal for those 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Sam, your thoughts on the Gen Zs?
I'm actually super excited by it. I mean, we have this whole talent pool that's coming through that are digital natives that are going to be inspired by the way that we adopt AI and can actually help us with that. What we do know is that people no longer want to go to universities and get expensive degrees. That trend is now changing. They want apprenticeships. They want to be able to learn on the job, but they want to be qualified alongside with that, to your point, Dan, around securing future career path. So there's a massive opportunity for us to offer those apprenticeships. And I think if we can tap into that talent and bring them in on our AI journey, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, when it comes to AI, I think we will see a lot happening when the younger generation starts actually working, because for them, that's, just looking at what they can do, sometimes it's incredible. I'm like, this is so far from, and I don't think I'm that bad. You know what I mean? It's just a, self-assessment that I didn't want to do. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to align with Jason. I haven't worked out Gen Z, if I'm honest with you, yet, where they are in the workplace. It's very good to have a balance, though. So a lot of our senior engineers, they've been with us in excess of 10, 15 years. They're the ones with the talent, with the grey hairs. And as we blend them in with the team coming in that want to learn, as long as you can be flexible with your culture to accommodate some of the, and I'll go on a limb and say it, some of the bizarre expectations.
Yes.
Just because we don't necessarily understand them doesn't mean that we shouldn't compensate for them.
No.
And I think it's having that ability to deliver a workplace that they find acceptable to them, as well as one that coexists with the traditional engineering fashion. So at the moment we're very much doing the same. We're using the kind of skilled long-term service engineers to pass on those skill sets to the new Gen Z members coming in. But we're also reaping the benefits of, well, we need to do a firmware update and update this. Yeah, brilliant. Pass me the iPad on, and they're all over it. It's incredibly good to see, and there's a lot we can learn from the other side from it. So I don't know the answer. It's going to be an exciting place in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, God bless the Gen Zs, right? They're getting a lot of, comments here, and we don't have anyone who can defend them in the room either. I think. I hope. Oh, you want the microphone? Yeah.
And the future? Think about it, but whenever it comes to equipment for the future, I think that the benefit is there, and it's
Yeah.
when they come around the automation, when they come around simplification, when they bring in the new solutions, I can put my hand down. We have hired numerous Gen Z, whatever you want to call it, field service technicians. I think it's just benefit so far. As long as you have a framework in place, you have strong strategic workforce planning in place, have a culture, a framework. As long as they know where they come, give the reward.
Yeah. Good. No, and I think you're as long as they know I think it's true for anyone who's a junior, right? As long as they know what's expected of them, and you can somehow adjust their daily work to what their strengths are. They're also contributing with something into the organization, right? So that's where the magic happens. Okay, so. Oh, they're loud because they're afraid not being heard. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah. True that. You're learning the hard way at home, right? But if we look at then service leadership, because we're speaking about transformation quite a lot here, and I stated in the morning that it's 20% technology, maybe 80% humans actually making, transformation happen in the real world, that is. But from your experience, doing some of these transformative projects over into more predictive maintenance, etc., over the last couple of years. It doesn't have to be predictive maintenance, but any sort of technology investments and upscaling your service capabilities. Do you have any pitfalls that you have bumped into that you would like to, from a change management perspective, that you would like to share with the audience that was like, ooh, didn't see that one coming, and here I am. Have to sort of figure a way out of this, because we know we always have great ambitions when we do transformational projects, and then we might actually be surprised by some of the things that happens along the way that we didn't foresee. Any ideas you want to share?
I think the only one that really springs to mind of a sizable nature, a couple of years ago, we addressed the issue of excess networking capital in terms of spares sat in the vans.
Yeah.
And we did a big change piece around looking at what is the consumption rate, what do they need to carry before we start impacting first time fix, etc. Without going into all the details, I think one of the aspects that we forgot to really double down on before we rolled it out was the kind of the whiffing for the field service team. When you're answering those questions, we can talk numbers, we can talk around how it's going to benefit the business, but to explain it at their level of the older, kind of more seasoned engineers of, I keep that part for 15 years on the one occasion that it may happen. As much as it brings a wry smile sometimes, that's important to them. And you need to address that with them. You need to make them feel comfortable that they can still deliver, because they often hold themselves to a very high standard, which is great with those. So I think we dropped on that a little bit, and there was a bit of a kind of an engagement piece. We then had to do retrospectively of all of the work we did. So I think if I could revisit that, and we've addressed it for projects since, is you need a clear green light on that before you start moving with the transactional elements of any strategic change. So that was probably one of the pitfalls we experienced.
Sam, any
Yeah,
thoughts
ours
on
is very similar around, I guess, communication. So we embarked on our predictive maintenance journey back in 2017, I think, and it was something that we were kind of trying to work on in a silo. And very quickly we realized we needed the buy-in of the business. The buy-in of the executives was the only way it was really going to start gaining traction. But also, there's so many wider groups that it touches within the organization when you're moving to a predictive strategy, that you've got to include them on the journey the whole way through. And so our quick and rapid change was really around communication and bringing key stakeholders in from across the business, including, to your point, like the FSTs. They have as much of a stake in this as we do. So getting their feedback and learning from them.
Great. Jason, any pitfalls you have?
Yeah, all the ones you expect.
We will be here until 7. No, I'm just...
Not really. I mean,
I'm just kidding.
It's, I remember doing my MBA. I mean, I don't know, 20 years ago now, and what they said about change management then is as true now as it is, and you still make the same mistakes every single time. People want change, but they don't want to change, and the way that you get them to change is trying to be open and transparent about the process. If you get a success, you tell them this succeeded because of this and because of what you did, and this is how we're going to use the data. And that's the only thing I can really say. I mean, it wasn't a surprise. I knew it was going to be a problem, and it was a problem, and it always will be a problem next time as well.
So we're coming to an end. So the sort of $1 million question for the panel, maybe as the final statement, if you could prioritize one capability today to future-proof your service organization, connected or not, what would it be and why?
I think I've said the word 5 or 6 times so far since I've been up here. At the moment, for me, it would be that culture, because I believe the culture breeds into the talent pool. It breeds into the progressive nature of the knowledge you hold within the business. It breeds into the customer experience of the service you're delivering. So it sounds a bit of a basic one to come back to, but I'm a firm believer that if you get the culture right, whatever direction or change you need the team to go on with you, it's more of a kind of they'll move with you than you're pushing them up the hill to get them to where you want to. So for me, that would be kind of the key element.
Culture, Sam?
Yeah, I love the presentation that Andreas gave us on getting to advanced services. So actually those building blocks and steps towards advanced service for me will be the biggest takeaway coming out of this.
Thank you. And Jason?
It's true. I think technology enables transformation, but culture is what delivers it.
Yeah.
And for me, 30 odd years in field service, to me, the best sensor that you've got, best machine sensor, is your service engineer.
Yeah.
That is a final great statement. Thank you. Give them a hand. Thank you.